All right, hello class, let's get started. We are still in Unit 4 talking about big economics, and our standard has changed. We are now talking about inflation. In particular, we are going to need to be able to demonstrate the impact of inflation on world economies. So let's get into our LEQ. There's only one for this video. What is the relationship between the purchasing power of money, which is something we're about to discuss, and the rate of inflation? So before we can answer that, we have to figure out what inflation is. So as when something inflates, it gets bigger. So think about that. Inflation means get bigger. So as an economic term, inflation is a rise in the average price of goods and services in the macroeconomy. I said macroeconomy, and here's why. Inflation is about macroeconomics, the entire United States, the entire world, if you will. Inflation is not about the rise of any one particular good or service. So you cannot say, oh man, this ice cream cone is more expensive than it was last week. This is inflation. No. It has to be on average, most all goods and services have gone up in price. So again, on average, most all goods and services go up in price. Now, if you do not like my simple definition of inflation, this second bullet point here might provide you a little bit more clarity. Inflation is defined as a sustained increase, so that means over the course of time, in the general level of prices for goods and services. It is measured as an annual percentage increase. That is, compared to the year 2014, the average price of most goods and services has gone up 1.3%. That means in 2015, we were paying 1.3% more for most goods and services on average than we were in 2014. This last sentence is what I want you guys to really write down and highlight in your notes. As inflation rises, every dollar you own buys a smaller percentage of a good or service. That is crazy, isn't it? So yes, here I am telling you that dollar bill you have in your wallet is not always worth $1. In other words, what that $1 could have bought maybe 5 years ago, right now, it can only buy 93 cents worth of that same good or service. I want you guys to understand that GDP by itself is not an accurate measure of an economic performance. Now again, we use the business cycle, and the business cycle is great to measure economic performance, but GDP by itself, without adjusting for inflation, GDP by itself does not take into account inflation. Now, when I say inflation, here's a common misconception. When I'm talking about inflation, I will always be specific in class. I know in class and on your exams and tests, you may see in the business cycle the expansion/inflation phase of the business cycle, which is a good thing. This is good right here, the blue part. But when we talk about inflation in relation to the purchasing power of money, that's a bad thing. So again, I am not an economic theorist. I wish they had different names for these, but ultimately, what we're talking about in this video is separate from the inflation we use for the business cycle. Even though the inflation we're talking about does affect this GDP factor right here. All right, so if you look at our LEQ, we're talking about inflation and the relationship with the purchasing power of money. So the purchasing power of money is defined as the following. It is the real goods and services that money can buy. That's what determines the value of the money. So once again, it's not so much that you have a dollar, it's what you can buy with that dollar that matters. Let me say that again. It's not so much that you have a dollar, it's what you can buy with that dollar that matters. It's not so much that you have $1,000, it's what you can buy with that $1,000 that matters. Some years, you can buy more with $1,000 on average than you can other years. Some years, you might have $1,000 and be able to get $1,012 worth of goods and services compared to a different particular year. So our second bullet point, how does a drop in the value of the dollar, aka increased inflation, skew GDP? So once again, think about the business cycle, think about GDP. GDP is great, it's the chief measure of economic performance, but unless you take into account inflation, it can provide you with skewed results. So inflation can make GDP look higher on paper, but that higher GDP does not always represent higher output. Remember, GDP measures output. We have consumption, business investment, government spending, and net exports. That's output. That's what we are purchasing, producing in any given year. Here's the best example I can give you guys. It's been a while since we've talked about Jordans. So last year, we'll say 2014, Jordans may have cost $250. This year, because of maybe inflation, again, it's not about one specific product, but just for the sake of example, this year the same pair is $300. So if you look just at consumer spending, oh, consumers are spending more this year, that's great for GDP. Well, hold on. The physical output was still the same. GDP, in fact, did not increase because a pair of Jordans is still a pair of Jordans, is still a pair of Jordans, regardless of the price. Now, if we sold a higher quantity of pair of Jordans, that would mean something. But again, Jordans are still Jordans regardless of price. That's why inflation can skew GDP. All right, so here are some pictures for you guys. I found out inflation is really kind of a, I guess, theoretical subject to talk about. It's kind of abstract. It's hard to wrap your mind around. So here's some pictures to help you guys get a feel for it. So I want to focus on the one on the right because I feel like that's the best one. And this is a legitimate measure of inflation. In 1972, you had a $20 bill. In 1992, $20 bill. 2012, $20 bill. A $20 bill has always been worth $20. Since they made a $20 bill, it's been worth $20. The difference is what that $20 can buy you. So as you can see, over the course of time from 1972 to 2012, inflation has indeed gone up. In 1972, $20 could buy you, quite literally, a shopping cart full of products. 1992, half a shopping cart. Now in 2012, you can't get what you used to get with $20. Talk to your grandparents about that. They'll tell you all about it. So what I need you guys to know is $20 is $20 is $20, but $20 cannot always buy the same amount of goods and services from year to year. All right, so to summarize all of this, inflation is simply a general rise in prices which can be caused by a plethora of factors. For example, once again, guys, it's general rise in prices. It's not one specific product. So I might raise my price at my juice bar. Think about supply and demand, stuff like that. Well, my chief competitors might also raise their price. Is that because we want to make higher profits? Or is it because perhaps the people that we bought our fruits and vegetables also raised their prices? Did they want to just get a higher profits? Or is it possible that they had to raise their prices because the suppliers of those suppliers raised their prices? And did they just want to make higher profits? Or was it because the farmers raised their price? Did the farmers have to raise their price because gas went up and it's now more expensive to run all their capital on the farm? You know, who knows? Well, PhD economists know, but I certainly don't know. So yeah, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg syndrome. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Was me raising my prices the issue, or was the fact that gas went up caused farmers to increase their prices and it went up the food chain? So that's something to consider. Think of the domino effect. All right, so this video was a general overview of inflation. We still have so much to talk about. This is the first part of a multi-video series. Here is your LEQ in review. The overall theme I need you to understand is that a dollar is a dollar is a dollar, but a dollar cannot always buy the same amount as a dollar in a different period of time. Some years, a dollar can buy a lot. Some other years, a dollar can't buy a little. Some years, on average, a dollar can buy exactly a dollar amount of goods and services. All right, so it has been a while, but here is some extra credit. I appreciate you guys watching this video. I am a huge Godzilla fan. Godzilla was actually one of my heroes growing up because he's always, if he's not busy destroying Tokyo, he's always busy saving the world. So on your next quiz you have coming up, so on the quiz that you saw in your LEQ review slide, on that date, your first extra credit question is going to be draw the picture specified in the homework videos. I want you to exercise your artistic creativity and draw me a nice, big, pretty, green monster Godzilla. Thanks for watching the video. You guys take care.